It is the 9th of January, 2025, and Donald Trump is 11 days away from raising his right hand and swearing the presidential oath that will make him head of state and commander-in-chief. This is the warning. MAGA lieutenants are ecstatic. They are full of themselves. Consider this arrogance by the buffoon who holds the 8 o'clock hour on Fox News, Jesse Waters, speaking to Premier Doug Ford, the equivalent of an American governor, on Fox News last night.
You say that Americans don't have a problem with Canadians, and we don't. But it seems like you have a problem with us. Because if I were a citizen of another country and I was a neighbor of the United States, I would consider it a privilege to be taken over by the United States of America. That's what everybody else in the world wants, American citizenship. For some reason, that's repellent to you Canadians. And I find that personally offensive, Premier.
If you had any pride working at Fox News, if you got up in the morning and went to work, even if you were the most committed MAGA propagandist, does this not embarrass you? The lack of dignity, the assault on an elected premier of Ontario? The insult begins right from the beginning. His brother was the deceased Rob Ford, the mayor of Toronto with a notorious drug problem. Jesse Waters isn't offering condolences or being friendly. He's being cruel.
All right, Premier. By the way, I loved your brother. We did an interview. Great guy.
Canada will never be the 51st state because Canada is a great nation. And every American president who has had a Canadian partner has understood that. This is the 49th parallel. It's the boundary line between the United States and Canada, and it marks the longest undefended border in world history. What the Canadian people need are leaders who will remind the American people that we are friends, but we are two nations. Canadian leaders shouldn't take Trump's bait, but they shouldn't be a doormat either, because every person who gets on their knees in front of Donald Trump gets rolled over. One of the biggest mistakes of this era is the license that Donald Trump has been given because the Democratic Party's position has been, if you're against Donald Trump, that's enough. And Donald Trump feeds off of the incompetence, and he feeds off of the stupidity, and he feeds off of the hypocrisy of his opposition, which he's defeated to take power. Donald Trump's rise to power is a tragedy. The Democrats allowing him to do it is the greatest failure in American political history. They lost an election to the most unfit man there is, and the 76 million voters who voted against MAGA should be irate about it. Problems of the Democratic Party are deep, not just at the presidential level. This is a historic day in the United States. We learned about the San Francisco fire of 1906 in our history books following the earthquake. This fire in Los Angeles is its equivalent. The city is burning. When the fire is out and the images of scene or the damage, it will boggle the mind of the American people. This is Mayor Karen Bass arriving back in the United States, in Los Angeles, days after the inferno has begun, arriving back from her junket in Africa, in Ghana.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
Can you back up? Appreciate it.
Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today?
It is very important to understand, before she left, the National Weather Service was advising the dangerous winds, that they were advising the dangerous conditions. The mayor had no business leaving the city or leaving the state. She was derelict. And yet, the instinct of many is to cheer her as if she's a pop star, as opposed to an elected official with life and death responsibilities who failed miserably. Papers are filled with reports that Matt Gaetz may run for governor of Florida. Comes a couple of days after weather experts said that there's a new storm category, a category 6. States most likely to be hit by a category 6 hurricane include Florida. And who wouldn't want Matt Gaetz on the bridge when it hits? I remember being in the Bush White House during Katrina, watching the incompetence of Michael Brown, Governor Kathleen Blanco, Mayor Ray Nagin, all accumulate during a terrible disaster to cause immense suffering that should not have happened. The Democratic Party should demand of its elected officials that they be the best and the brightest of their generation. It's going to take that to beat back what's coming down the road. I know there are people out there hoping for the best, that think that maybe it won't be so bad. But when you watch Jesse Waters, your instinct and common sense should tell you it's going to be worse than you thought. This era is coming to an end, ceding to a terrible new one that will require a tough and decent opposition that can answer a question. Why can't the mayor talk here? Why can't she speak?
Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster? No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
This is the person in charge of the emergency response. It's incredible and it's tragic. It's sick in a way. Until we demand better, we will not get it. And unless we demand competence, the American people will not see it. Donald Trump is going to fill the government of the United States with MAGA versions of Karen Bass. These people together are a menagerie of unfitness, the likes of which has never been assembled. And there will be a crisis like the burning of Los Angeles. And in the Situation Room and in the councils of government where life and death decisions are made, there will be a round table of fools sitting together who do not care about you, who do not care about your family, who do not care about their country, who do not care about the future. They just care about their power and taking as much as they can get from it. Power to them is a right to take, not to give, not to serve, not to fight for you. Jeff Bezos has greenlit a $40 million documentary about Melania. No one will watch it. She may be the least interesting person in the country. Yet, 40 million. Why? It's a payoff to Trump's ego from the richest man in the world. So he gets to continue to do whatever he likes. Sold out his readers at the Washington Post, just like Trump will sell out the voters who voted for him. In the end, Democratic Party will have another primary. We'll pick another candidate to go up against him, this time in the form of J.D. Vance, who will be even tougher. Who is the person who's going to rise in this country, who has the capacity to speak, to connect, and to call out the malice, the idiocy, the stupidity, and the incompetence? Los Angeles is burning, and it didn't have to. Decades of poor land management, lack of imagination among fire officials about the potential for a catastrophe like this. There'll be plenty of time to review it all, but the extreme weather and the idiocy of the politicians is combining to create profound danger for all Americans. 11 days from now, Donald Trump will start the burning. He's going to burn our institutions. He's going to burn the idea that we're connected. He's going to burn down the idea that nations have allies and that America's allies share values. He's going to allow his cronies to take as much as they can suck up out of the trough. 2025 is off to a terrible start in the United States. It began with terror attacks. It began with dishonesty in the media, political incompetence, the burning of Los Angeles, the moral capitulations of some of the most powerful people in the country, to malice, to indecency, to bullying. Donald Trump is still 11 days away from walking out onto a dais and delivering an inaugural address that will shock the conscience of the world and this nation. Get ready. There are hard days ahead. This is The Warning. I'm Steve Schmidt. This is The Warning, and I invite you to subscribe on our Substack, on our YouTube channel. Follow us. Welcome to the community.